Right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us as we delve into another episode with another great guest in our series For the Love of Star Wars, where we pick one episode or piece of media from the Star Wars universe that our guest loves and we find out why. Now, let's welcome our special guest to this episode. Joining us for the very first time, it is Brett from Brett on Fett. Hello, Brett.
Hey,
Hey
Brett.
guys, how are
Welcome.
you? Doing well.
Very good, very
Thanks.
good.
Appreciate you having me.
No, thanks for coming on. Yes, let's get straight into it. Brett, tell us what Star Wars media you have chosen to talk about this week.
Right. So I have chosen The Mandalorian, Season 1, Episode 1, The Mandalorian. Very original,
Excellent.
exciting title.
Excellent. Yeah.
Great episode.
It is. I'll let you in on a bit of a secret. If this would have been my choice to do an episode in this series, it would have been this one. If I had a choice, because I love this episode. It is absolutely fantastic. So I'm made up that we can talk about this. A few little facts, as I like to do. It was written by Jon Favreau and directed by Dave Filoni. We don't really need to say too much about that. We all know who those two are.
Great combo.
Absolutely, yeah. They do some really, really good stuff, don't they? So no surprise that this was amazing as well. But the episode has an IMDb rating of 8.6, which is around sort of average for the series, probably a little bit lower than it should be.
Yeah, I'd say that's a bit low.
Yeah.
It does sound low.
Yeah, but I guess it's a new episode, a whole new world that they're bringing in. So maybe, it takes a bit of time in most series to get going. So
It is a setup episode, right?
Absolutely,
setting
yeah.
up the series.
Yeah. So still a good rating anyway, I think. So Brett, what is it that you love about The Mandalorian episode 1? The Mandalorian.
Oh well, so when this came out, for a while we've been kind of sitting in a lull of no Star Wars for a bit. We were coming off of the sequel trilogy, which let's face it, was a bit of a disappointment for many fans. And we didn't know where we were going to go from there with Star Wars. And I remember just being excited about the idea of a TV series, going back as far as before Disney even bought Lucasfilm. George Lucas had hinted that they were working on developing a series.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying he had like 40 episodes written already. But then they ultimately decided they didn't have the technology yet to do. It would just cost a ridiculous amount of money. So to be cost effective, they just couldn't do it at the time. This is probably the late 2000s, I want to say.
Yeah.
And so I guess they shelved it. And so when I heard Disney was putting out this whole stream service and they were going to work on a Star Wars series, I was very excited, cautiously optimistic, a little bit nervous of how it's going to work. Are they going to have enough budget to make it feel like Star Wars? But then when that first episode aired, I mean, just all my concerns went out the door, and I was just floored by all the callbacks just in this one episode.
Yeah.
There are so many callbacks to the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And I felt like that episode was just written for me specifically because of so many things from it that I loved. And for me, one of my favorite aspects of Star Wars was the bounty hunters from Empire Strikes Back. I was always,
I'm with
from
you
a
there.
little kid, I was so fascinated. We didn't get to see much, right? It was like one scene.
Yeah.
But I was just fascinated about all these guys, IG-88 and Bosk, and I was just like, what do these guys do? I wanted to know what they could do. And I was of course fascinated by Boba Fett. And so I've always wanted to see more about the life of bounty hunter. And we've never really explored that too much on film or on TV, at least. There's plenty of novels and comics and those sort of things. But so to see this show come out about a bounty hunter and a Mandalorian bounty hunter at that was just really exciting. And I mean, just the opening shot of him standing there with the snow.
Yeah. In the
He's got
doorway.
the doorway, and then just walking in. And then he goes into a cantina with aliens. I mean, come on. So many callbacks.
Yeah.
And and then the opening line, I can bring you in warm, or I can bring you in cold. I mean, how fantastic is that? And it just harkened back to those spaghetti westerns like Clint Eastwood, that kind of thing. And I eat that stuff up. But that's what Star Wars was made of to me. It
Yeah.
was, it was a western in space, and then the music just hitting just right with again the spaghetti western sounding
Hmm.
music. It was just fantastic, and to me that was Star Wars. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. That's that is exactly what I think. I've said that this is fan service done right. This is how we all wanted it to be, I think, and they just got it right. The aliens calling back to you got the squid head or the Quarren,
Oh yeah.
from the off, and then RG-11, the Ugnaught, Nikto
Mhm.
guards, the Nikto guards, and it's just
How about
fantastic.
I love the Kubas alien, the Garandan alien
Yeah.
ferryman.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Garandan is
Yeah.
one of my he's one of my favorite aliens from A New Hope. I just love that species. So when I saw that, I was like, "Come on!" It's like
Yeah.
these guys wrote this show with me in mind. And then just the just how everything is kind of a bit dirty and kind of breaking down. That was the charm of Star Wars to me, where
Mm.
it wasn't everything was so super clean,
Mm.
like stuff in the past, Flash Gordon or whatever, Buck Rogers. That was the charm of Star Wars to me, that things weren't always spick and span, so to speak.
Mm.
The ferryman calls that one speeder. It's new, but he doesn't want it because it's a
Just
droid.
the
He says no
droid. Yeah.
droids, and then they pull up that second. Remember the second one pulls up, and it's just barely getting there, and it's
Yeah.
popping, and parts are literally falling off of it. I that kind of stuff. I just ate that stuff up, man.
Mm.
And then
Love it.
add into that the sea monster that comes through the
Oh
ice
yeah,
as well. It's just, I don't know,
yeah.
perfect. Martin.
You're like, boom, this is Star Wars.
Yeah.
Boom, this is Star Wars.
Yeah.
Boom, this. They're just hitting all the marks, checking all the boxes,
Yeah.
just in this one episode.
Yeah. Martin, anything to add?
Well, I mean, just sitting here listening to Brett for the last 5 minutes. Bearing in mind, I only watched this a few hours ago. I'm actually going to just leave you guys now and go and watch it again, because that's just got me so pumped to go and watch it
Yeah.
again. What he's just said, but yeah, he's 100% right. This is a setup episode, but it's done it in the right way. It gives you enough Star Wars that you recognize, whether it be sequel trilogy, prequel trilogy, whatever. It gives you little hints of it. It gives you in your face moments of that sort of Star Wars, but it also gives you enough. Oh, that's interesting. I'd like to know more about that. Or, oh, what's this Beskar? I'd like to know more about that. Oh, why doesn't he like droids? That sort of stuff. Gives you all
Yeah.
these little elements that
Little
original
teasers.
Star Wars. Yeah, exactly. Original Star Wars did that as well. And as fans, we ate that stuff up because we wanted to know more about it. Whether we had to read books about it, or comic books, or go on the internet or whatever, that's the kind of thing that makes Star Wars, as well as the story and the characters and everything else that comes with it.
Mhm.
It's those little moments, and yeah, I must admit, and this is a positive show, and I'm not throwing shade at anything, but again, this is another episode that after I finish today, you can just see the quality, the
Mm.
absolute quality in every department of the making of this episode, that is slightly, well, not slightly, a lot better than some of the things we might have seen a bit more recently. And again, I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying, that's how I feel. And this was hands down. I finished it, and if I hadn't have had to do something else, I would have sat there and watched the entire first season,
Yes.
one
Yeah.
after the other.
Yeah.
It's such a good episode, and I have to congratulate Brett, because it's a great pick.
Yeah.
And I have to say, of course, it's a great episode, but it wasn't one of those ones up there that we thought would be picked, but it absolutely deserves to be picked as one of the best Star Wars episodes of anything out there. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that gives you a bit of an idea.
Definitely. I think we all probably had our doubts as well. Going into this, like we said, we don't, not to be negative, but the some of the bits that Disney had put out prior to this, it put a bit of doubt in our mind, and it was the Star Wars that I think we all, as fans, wanted and deserved, really. So yeah, to actually get this, I think it was quite an exciting sort of start to the series. There was a lot happened in the episode as well. How do you think they did with the pacing of it?
I thought the pacing was perfect. Really, it just each scene just kind of moved. I didn't feel like anything really dragged on.
No, no.
And I don't know how many. I don't know if you have it in your notes, Adam, how long the episode was, but it had
Uh,
so much, but I don't think
It was
it was that long.
about 37 minutes runtime.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
that's incredible when you think of
yeah,
the amount of things that happened.
exactly. Yeah,
Um,
that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
it didn't feel rushed either. I don't know. I love the pacing of that episode. Yeah,
yeah,
very
Well, there
good.
was no wasted time, was there, either? I mean, a lot of these, even pilot episodes of really great shows that we love, Breaking Bad, Sopranos, things that we consider great shows. If you go back and watch those pilot episodes, of course they're great, but they don't have the pacing that this does, and they had a
no,
lot of wasted minutes in my eyes of things that could have been tightened up because it was just introducing everybody, and it was a fresh new series. But this,
mm,
as you say, Brett, it just didn't have any wasted time whatsoever. And 37 minutes, if you say that's right, Adam,
yeah,
felt like an hour and a half. I felt like you
mm,
felt like you watched the movie, and you couldn't wait for the following couple of years to watch the sequel. It was that good. It was
yeah.
brilliant. Yeah.
Well, I was
And still
thinking,
managed to take its time where it needed to,
Mm,
like
yeah,
the sit down with
mm.
Werner
with the
Oh,
client,
what a
Herzog's
yeah,
scene.
character, that dialogue, and just soaking in how interesting a person he is,
mm,
and seeing him in Star Wars.
Yeah.
They didn't rush that at all. He could have just been like, here's the key fob. I need you to go do this, do that. But they took their time with that, and still made it managed to 37 minutes is amazing.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Before watching the episode, I was thinking through it and how much they had to get into it because obviously I've seen it a fair few times, and I was thinking, oh, this happens and this happens, and I'm pretty sure all of this happens inside. And I paused it. This is how I remembered the runtime. I paused it because I was like, this must be an hour long or something. This episode, but it's not. Yeah, couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it was 37 minutes. Um, Do you remember how much they teased in the trailers leading up to this? Because I remember we saw Baby Yoda, didn't
There
we,
was
or Grogu?
No,
no,
Did we
no, we
not?
never.
no, that was a total shocker.
Mm.
Was it? I
They
can't
I
remember.
remember them showing. I don't think I watched the whole thing because I think I averted my eyes because I was liking
Mm.
what I was seeing, and I
Mm,
just like, oh, I don't want to spoil. But I do recall some scenes of him walking through the market in that awesome uniform.
Yeah.
Um,
The Kowakian monkey lizards were
the
being fried,
Quacking
weren't
monkey
they?
and
Yeah.
lizard
spit
watching
roasted,
his
yeah.
buddy spit roasted was amazing. Um, I don't know. I don't remember much of
I
all
think
besides that. I think maybe because I just didn't watch the whole thing.
I think what you're referring to, it was a celebration. I'm guessing it must have
Uh,
been
Is that right?
2019
Hmm.
celebration, and it was for the audience only sort of
Oh, right.
trailer
Yeah,
slash scene,
it's
and
kind of a
someone recorded
leaked.
it on their
mm,
phone. That's right. Yeah,
yeah, that's
and
right.
that was the footage that you're describing, and I
Right.
remember sitting there watching this really dodgy footage, thinking this looks incredible. That I mean, I don't actually remember a trailer. There must have been one, but that's what I remember is this really
Yeah.
bad footage in a really dark room that someone recorded on their phone. But honestly, that's how good this show was because that
Yeah.
really bad footage had got me so excited to watch this. So yeah.
Yeah. So, what were your thoughts when you first saw the Baby Yoda?
Wow, it was I was completely shocked. Just jaw-dropping moment, and I was amazed at how good he looked, how
Hmm.
cute he was, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
instantly fell in love with how cute everyone did, right?
Yeah.
And then my next thought was just I didn't know what it was. So I thought, was this a clone? My first guess was it was a clone of Yoda that someone
Hmm.
had been hiding away, but then they said it was 50 years old.
Yeah.
So that was throwing me off.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what to think. I was definitely intrigued though, in a
Yeah.
good way. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the episode leaves you wanting so much, don't you? Like to
Oh
get
yeah.
onto episode two. Um, was there a particular sort of scene or character or piece of dialogue that you'd pick out from this episode that you'd regard as your favorite?
Yeah, so I'd have to say my favorite scene is the IG-11 in action scene when he
Hmm.
just starts taking out people.
Yeah.
Um, if you want to see a grown man instantly turn into a child, that was me watching that scene for the first time, because it's just a culmination of me fantasizing about the Empire Strikes Back bounty hunters, and in particularly, I seem to always focus on IG-88, and
Yeah.
he just barely moved in the film, right? He just moved his head and his arms. He was very robotic, and I just always fantasize about what this guy could actually do in action and what it would look like, and it exceeded my
Yeah.
expectations to see an IG unit in action in a live action series. Just the head spinning, arms going, him able to just all
Pick people
directions.
off all. Yeah.
I was It was one of the most excited I've ever been since probably seeing the original trilogy. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I've got him right here. This is one of my favorite vintage collection toys. They kind of nailed this one. But just, man, seeing him in action, I loved it. And then just to carry it on where Mando joins him,
Mm.
and the chemistry that they had instantly in that one scene. And you're talking about a droid that cannot make facial expressions and a human wearing a helmet, and they managed to make it work where you felt real chemistry between these two
Yeah.
Yeah.
in that scene where IG keeps wanting to
Yeah.
self-destruct. And
Yes.
That's. I
I
mean,
mean, it was great. And
isn't that a great example of doing comedy right in Star Wars?
yes,
It's
Yeah.
it was so good. It
yeah,
was
he
really
was
funny.
Taika
Witty.
Watiti.
Waititi
Mm.
nailed it. Yeah, it was that subtle, little bit silly, but not over the top slapstick silly.
Yeah.
Um, no, it was great. I thought that was perfect. Definitely my favorite scene. I was just out of my chair with excitement watching that IG in action. And that was probably maybe my most disappointed part of this episode was that Mando had to kill him
Mm.
at the end,
Yeah.
not knowing he would come back, because I was assuming this might turn into like a cop buddy show,
Yeah.
or whatever you call it, with those two. I mean, how great would that be?
That,
Those two
yeah.
going on
Yeah.
adventures. So it almost crushed me instantly in the same episode when he took him out. Of course, he comes back to life, I guess, several times on this show, but
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you know what,
But that
Brett?
it was interesting. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
good.
I picked the same scene. That's it. That's exactly the same for me. Just to see those two in action, the way they were. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, it makes you realise what IG-88 was capable of, doesn't it? And that's what
Yeah,
I loved about that scene. The dialogue
they
between
were
the
supposed
two,
to be
it's just perfect.
they were kill machines, right? I mean, they were
Yeah.
like kind of like Terminators,
Yeah.
basically. So it was nice
Yeah.
to see him actually do that.
Perfect assassin droids. Martin, what was yours?
Well, it will surprise no one who knows me that my favorite scene, coming from liking the bad guys in Star Wars mostly, is the scene between Mando and Werner Herzog, the client. I
Great
thought,
scene.
I mean, Werner Herzog. I mean, anything that he's in,
Delightfully
or
evil,
even
isn't he?
yeah, or even narrates, because he
Mm,
narrates a lot of documentaries, doesn't he? And his voice, there's something about it that's just I don't know. It's intoxicating. It's I don't know. There's something about it that makes you want to sit there and pay attention and listen, and
Mhm.
you're intrigued by what he's got to say. And he plays an imperial. Is he a moth? I think in it you find out eventually, or something like that, or a governor or
I'm not
something. I
sure.
don't know,
Yeah.
but whatever. But I mean, he I'm really interested as soon as he sat down. I was like, oh, so the Empire do have a presence still, because obviously at this point we don't know. This is the first time we would have seen the Empire since the end of Return of the Jedi, in terms of
Mm,
canon. And um, when we watched the sequel trilogy, there was nothing left of them other than the graveyard on Jakku. So we were seeing this for the first time. So this was a shock to me straight away that they were actually still about. And
yeah.
and also he managed to introduce in the same scene the destruction of Mandalore, or the purge as they call it. And I'm like, oh, what's this? This is great. I want to know more about this. And obviously learning a bit more about these pucks, and again,
Mm,
that scene encompasses so much new lore that we've never heard of before, and as a bonus, we get dirtied, messed up stormtroopers who have seen better days, and we see Dr. Pershing walk in, and instantly I notice on his arm he's got the insignia of the
Kaminoan.
Camonian. Oh my god, Kaminoans. Thank you,
Yeah.
Adam. And I'm like, oh my god, there's a prequel reference. What's going on here? And just that scene, there was just so much in it that it's one of those scenes that when you first watched it, not so much now, but you just had to watch it 2 or 3 times because there was so much going on in it, both verbally and subtly, that I think for me that was the thing that set up me wanting to sit and watch what happened throughout the entire season and the seasons after, because it set up so much stuff. So if I had to choose, that would definitely be my favorite scene in the episode. But I would say it's really difficult to choose because there are so many great scenes like that, like the scene where he goes down to the coven and you see all the other Mandalorians, and again your mind's blown. You're like, what's this all about? This is amazing. And the armorer is creating all this armor, and you get a bit of flashback from him as a kid, and obviously you come to learn on later episodes that it was the separatist droid army that was. I mean, this series in general, but this episode as well. I mean, it's so good.
Like we said, they cram so much into this. It's unreal. You mentioned the Kaminoan or the Cloners logo. There's quite a few Easter eggs in this episode. Not to mention all of the species that we'd seen before. But did you notice George Lucas on the Razor Crest in Carbonite?
Yeah,
No.
I have read that he's the last carbonite freeze,
carbon
whatever
block.
it's called, slab.
Slab.
Is he in human form or is he as an alien?
No, human form, yeah. But I must admit, I watched it today knowing about this, and I have to say, with the exception of the beard, it doesn't look too much like him. I've got to be honest.
No,
but
you wouldn't notice, really. I don't think.
No. But I have read the same thing. That's meant to be him.
Yeah.
Huh, that's amazing. I've never heard that. I'll have to go back and watch it.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't know. I had to read about it to find that one out. How do you think the music sort of felt as part of the show, being a Star Wars show? It didn't have the sound that John Williams necessarily puts out. How do you think it fit in?
Yeah, at first I admit it didn't feel quite as what we were used to. It definitely didn't feel like John Williams.
No.
I think there's like a didgeridoo at some point in some of the songs. I could be wrong, but I did feel like it hit the nail on the head to get out that Western feel.
Yes.
It was a Western theme, clearly. I mean, you've watched any of those Clint Eastwood movies from the day. I mean, it's right up there with those. So based on the theme of the show, with him being a bounty hunter, kind of a loner, I thought it was pretty perfect, actually. Yeah. Once I got over the fact that we weren't listening to John Williams anymore, it's just you had to open yourself up to other people. He's not going to be here forever. So
yeah, it's very
no,
true.
I was totally fine with it.
Martin?
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, with the exception of no, I don't think Solo had come out yet. Actually, I think this would have been I think Solo had come out. Sorry, but with the exception of Solo, this would have been the first time we would have heard Star Wars series or film without John Williams. So I was obviously a bit worried at first because I'm such a big fan of all the soundtracks that he's ever done for the films. And I have to say what Brett said at the beginning, that an opening shot where you see the Mandalorian just from behind and he's standing there sort of looking out over the town in the snow, and it hits that sort of Western theme. As soon as that happened, I kind of didn't even think about it because it seemed to fit perfectly. There is some, when the Mandalorian theme kicks in, they do this clever thing where they have the Mandalorian theme in its Western style, but they also have orchestral music playing over it at the same time. So I feel if anything, they did something really clever there because they amalgamated the two so that it wasn't too much of a shock to the system. And it works absolutely perfectly. The music, as I say, after watching this episode again today, it just seems another element in this series that's just perfect. And if anything, it actually enhances the show more than anything else. So yeah, I think he's done a really good job with this episode and the first season in general. I think it's so much so that I bought the soundtrack. I'm not going to lie.
Did you?
So I think that says it all, really. The fact
Yeah.
that I did that, because I'm usually a John Williams. Every time there's a film comes out, I pick up the soundtrack, regardless of what I thought of the movie. I'll pick up the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Because I love John Williams' music so much, and I did it with this. I've never done it with any of the other shows that have come out. So yeah,
High praise.
really, really
High
great
praise
stuff.
indeed.
Yeah, really good.
Yes. You probably covered most of this already, Brett, but what is it about this that feels like Star Wars to you?
So I think, like I've said before, I think that not so perfect world, where you've got things that are broken down, you've got people struggling to make a living, you've got, but mixed in with technology,
Mm.
plenty of droids walking
Yeah.
about, plenty of aliens, interesting looking aliens, that makes you wonder, oh, what's he up to over there, and then creatures. We talked briefly about the big creature that breaks through the ice.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said it before, it checks all the boxes. You got speeders, you've got spaceships, you've got droids,
Yeah.
you've got large creatures, you've got stormtroopers, and it was like Martin said, it was really awesome to see remnant stormtroopers, dirty, beat up,
Yeah.
worn down, and then you've got these Imperials that are just trying to hang on to a thread. It kind of reminded me of, you kind of think of it as like Nazis after the war, right? Trying to build up something, and it just I just it just hit me with all the feels, and just to I mentioned it with my favorite scene, the IG-11. I just couldn't get over that, just to
Mm.
bring that to life. And I'm sure Favreau and Filoni were thinking the same thing, that what could IG-88 do? We want to see that, and so
Yeah.
to show us
Absolutely.
that was just amazing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this
yeah, it hit all of it. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. I think this is everything we wanted Boba Fett to be, really, wasn't it? And not so much the book of Boba Fett, but when you look
Yeah.
at what Boba meant to everyone, I think
Hmm.
this is kind of what we wanted, isn't it? A Mandalorian that was just a badass, cool as you like, and just got on with it, had his bounties, and was more than capable of undertaking them.
Taking care of business.
Mm. Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up Boba Fett, because it's something I've kind of forgotten about. That when this did come out, and as I started watching this episode, a little bit of me, it was kind of bittersweet. I was a little bit frustrated, because I was like, well, this is Boba Fett. I mean, this is how
Mm.
Boba Fett should act. Why couldn't we have gotten a Boba Fett series? They had talked about a film,
Yeah.
and I think because Solo was not very successful, I think that killed that. But I think there were plans to make a standalone film about
Mm.
Boba. And so I was a bit irritated that this Mando character took the place of Boba. But once the story started got going, it went a whole direction that I wouldn't want to see Boba going
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
with Grogu and all that, and then the religious part. This guy was part of a religious cult. Let's face
Mm.
it. The whole thing
Mm.
about we not take our helmet off. I wouldn't want them to go down that road with Boba Fett
No.
at all. So I got over that really quick,
Yeah.
once I saw and figured out where the story was going.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to repeat some things Brett said in terms of what made this feel like Star Wars for me. So I do apologize, but I've basically done a list of things that made it feel like Star Wars to me. Hutties, a Kubaz, a
Yeah.
Gonk droid, a version of Jabba's door droid that we mentioned earlier, Jawas, stormtroopers, Trandosians, Nikto, Quarren, Kowakian monkey lizards, R5s, camera wipes,
Camera
Ugnaughts,
wipes. Thank you.
Ugnaughts, IG droids, Boba Fett's rifle from the holiday special, Blurgs from the Ewok movie Battle for Endor, land speeders, moisture evaporators, life day. I mean,
Yeah.
normally when you ask me that question, I start getting all technical about camera angles and certain shots, the way they've been shot. But was all about those things I just listed
Just
off.
it's
That's
characters.
what made it feel like Star Wars. Absolutely, and background characters at that.
Mm.
And I think a lot of people make a big deal these days about being too much fan service and stuff, but that list was absolutely epic for a 37-minute episode. And did it feel like fan service? It absolutely did not. It had its own story. It had you intrigued to see what was going on for the rest of the season and the seasons beyond. But it added all those elements in because it's original Star Wars, it's prequel Star Wars, it's all Star Wars. And that's all I've really got to say on that question, I'm afraid. Because I mean, I wish certain newer series would learn from this episode, because just because it's fan service doesn't have to affect the story. It's just there, and it gives you that feeling of being in Star Wars, and the story is its own thing. It's the world that Star Wars, the story encompasses, that's really important, I think. And this episode, did the
Nails
job
it.
absolutely perfectly. Yeah.
Oh, great list. And how is it that we've gone this whole time and we haven't brought up the blurgs?
Yeah.
That was a big part of the story.
Yeah.
And Quill, we didn't even talk about
Yeah,
Quill.
Quill.
No.
I
Yeah.
mean, and that was a great character.
Yeah.
Great
I mean,
character.
how big did that become? I Have Spoken. It became
Yes.
it became a massive part of pop culture for ages, just like Baby Yoda did, and it was all from this episode. It really was a great episode and a great pick, Brett. Really great pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I've absolutely loved that episode. It's awesome. So nothing left to say, but thank you for coming on, Brett.
Thank
Wonderful.
you. Really appreciate it.
Wonderful having you. Where can people find you and your stuff?
Yeah, so I've got a YouTube channel, Brett on Fett. Should be pretty easy to find.
Yep.
I try to put out a video a week on there, and then I'm also on Instagram at Brett_on_Fett.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll put that in the description, of course. Thanks to everyone out there for watching. Like and subscribe and tell us what you thought about that one in the comments section. I'm now off to work on my Werner Herzog impression. So we will catch you in the next one.
Yeah, it needs a lot of work.
It does. Thanks. See you later.
Bye.
Bye, guys.